Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comic Shop Talk on the Late Night Collectors community. I'm your host, Nico, and joined with me today, as always, my co-host, Chris. How you doing?
Hey, not too bad. How are you?
Oh, we're still kind of licking our wounds over here over the Leaf lost. Leafs lost again.
Surprise, surprise.
The Leafs lost. The Leafs lost.
Thought they're coming back from the ashes, but no.
Yeah.
No such luck.
Yeah, this ain't no X-Men team where they rebuild themselves every other fucking few years. Well, I mean, we do have to do that, but it never gets us anywhere. This guy actually kind of is like the X-Men. Hated on by other people constantly.
Oh, yeah. The hate on the Leafs now is it's an all-time high. Feel bad for Mitch Marner, man. He's taking the brunt of it.
I mean, he did nothing. But anyways, this isn't a sports podcast, but we had to gripe about it a bit because we did hype them up going into the playoffs, of course. But here we are to talk about some comics. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here. If this is your first time checking us out, make sure to go back and check out our playlist here on the channel. All kinds of episodes here, 126 of these. And we got other shows that we've done in the past. Chris has been on some of the other ones. Other shows, cracking packs with the chat, and a bunch of other comic shows too that we did, like older comic shows that we no longer do anymore, but like all kinds of stuff. We have me talking about collected edition comics on the channel. Those are called Trade Talks. Weekly Wine Comic Time, which is basically kind of like this show that I did with Christine. So yeah, definitely go check those out. That was a little different. That one we got definitely a little bit more drunk for. I feel like those episodes. Not that if you want to see those, it's the ones where me and Chris really get together in person and do them. So we have that here too. So funny how both the shows that we've done on this, that we talk comics with another person, we're drinking on both.
Change that. Let's drink beer.
Pretty much, yeah. But today we're going to be talking about the new comics that came out for the week of May 1st, 2024. And spoiler warning, as always, guys, be forewarned. We are going to be talking about what happens in the books. We are going to be showing off some of the art. So, some things can get spoiled for you. So if you're worried about that, you can read your books and come back and check us out later. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at Late Night Collectors Community. We put out little videos each week showing off the covers that we got, me and Chris, and gives you a little sneak peek into what we're going to be talking about that week. Also, but at the time of this recording, new comic book day has just passed, so we hope that you made it out there this year, guys. This is actually fell on May the 4th this year. It's usually the first Saturday in May, and sometimes it ends up being the May the 4th as well, with all that Star Wars stuff. So I saw a lot of like Star Wars things going on as well at these comic shops, so they're promoting Star Wars comics and things like that. But yeah, I got a bunch of free comic books as well, some good stuff, some good offerings this year, so you might hear us talk about some of it on next week's episode, because these just came out the other day at the time of this recording. So, but there's an Energon Universe one. There's Spider-Man and Ultimate Universe one from Marvel. These are just some of the good ones here we might talk about. Absolute Power from DC. That's the new event. And then you got a Blood Hunt one too. So yeah, there's a few good ones there, and a bunch of other things too. But those are some of like the more specific ones to Marvel and DC Image, things that we usually talk about on this show that we might talk about next week. So stay tuned for that. Even had some some other things, some toys out there. I got this Dupe plush, which I was really happy about. This is from Dupe from Ecstatics, the X-Men team, the weird X-Men team in the Marvel universe, and Mike Allred drew this character. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this guy. So yeah, I had to pick up that plush. And then there's some Harley kind of Hero Clicks toys that they were giving out too. It's like a free comic book day exclusive figure that they were giving out at some shops. So yeah, hopefully you guys made it out there and helped support your local comic book stores, because that's kind of what it's all about, right? Like if they got sales going on, don't just go in there and pick up some free comics. Take a look at some of the other stuff that they have, and try to help support the store as well. If you guys made it out there this year, so or if not next year, right? Save it for then. But because they always got good deals going on, so it's a good time to take advantage of the deals when you go and support the shop by going there and showing your face and picking up your free comics, right? So good stuff. All right, Chris. That all being said,
all right, all comics all the time. Let's talk comics. Cheers.
Cheers. Switching it up on the beer today, I see too as well. Hey, I got some Corona going here today. No lie.
From Miller Genuine Draft.
Nice. There we go. All right, Chris, let's talk about Blood Hunt #1, which I think we both picked up the more violent, more bloody version here, the Red Band edition.
Well, my red band is still polybagged and poly sealed.
You read it online and you kept it in the bag, didn't you? Yeah. Listen, I took mine off, but I got the bag here, so I'm going to stick the bag.
Put an iron on it and close it.
Oh, look at you! You're like a true kid from the '90s. Clearly, there, Chris. You're
That's
like,
it.
I've
There's a
done
bit of nostalgia there. Haven't got a poly bag in a while. I got to keep that thing closed.
That's true. That's kind of cool in and of itself. That's pretty neat that they did it that way. But I'm going to get to a page, especially on the last page of this issue, guys. And then maybe Chris hasn't seen it either then, because maybe when he read it online. So I'm going to compare when we get to the last page, when we show this in the issue. Usually I don't give you guys a heads up like this, but I do want to say this was a version that was like $1 more or something that was out there. Was it $1 or $2 more? I don't know. It was like $1 or $2 more. And it had some scenes that were bloodier, basically the same panels, just more like pools of blood around the people. Yeah. But there was a couple of scenes, maybe just the one at the end of the issue that was like supposed to be like a shocking conclusion to this issue. And there's two different ways that it was shown in this version and the regular version. So the guy that gets, killed, it looks like at the end of the regular issue, is different than the way that he killed him in this issue. So I'm going to show that when we get to the end of this issue on the art, and I'm going to show it in the issue here. I'll just put it up the screen. So I just wanted to give everyone's a heads up that if you are curious about checking this event out, that there is going to be big spoilers here for this, for like basically what happens here. So anyways, go ahead, Chris. What did you think of this?
Well, I've been looking forward to this Blood Hunt. I guess I've been hyping it up for a while. I think their big tagline is "Who will bite it?" And you kind of seen some of the previews about what's happening. And I don't know, I don't know how to say this there, but I've been getting a lot of the beginning of the Avengers vibes when that Blood Coven first shows up. And I didn't really enjoy that story too much. And then seeing all these guys pop up, and then kind of pretty much dismantling the Avengers quite easily, I wasn't too pleased about that. But outside of that, I guess the story that's going on, I guess there's a nice twist at the end, so it might keep me interested. But I don't think I'll be going into all these tie-ins and everything, which may have some legs to it, but I'll try and read them if I can.
I mean, I feel like the tie-ins are going to be your basic kind of tie-in situation where different heroes are going to be fighting the vampires at different parts all over the city. I'm sure it'll add to the overall experience for sure if you're into it. I don't think I'll be reading many of them, if any at all. Well, actually, no, I did order the Wolverine one last minute, so I am going to be reading the Wolverine one because I really like the team on that one, the artists and stuff like that. But I thought this actually, again, in terms of an event, I thought this was pretty entertaining. I did definitely get vibes of the Jed McKay who's writing this Avengers. You're right. The big bads in this definitely were like those big bads that they were fighting in the first arc of Avengers. Very similar. This was kind of like, they're a little bit more scary and demented looking. Like this is kind of like a bunch of Hellraiser characters or something. I don't know. They were really weird looking, as you would expect with a vampire thing, incursion happening with all of them kind of attacking and some sort of coordinated move we find out in this issue, which is what really surprises all the heroes, is how they're basically attacking different parts of the city and not just like a bloodthirsty attack, basically like it's planned out very well. As you would expect, Blade shows up in the mix, like very expected for him to show up with vampires in the mix. Even the heroes, they're not surprised when he makes contact with the Avengers team here. And people are basically just succumbing to some sort of like darkness of some sort. It seems like big, I don't know, like what was happening there, like big, blackness, like darkness type.
Yeah, I guess any of these Dark Force users, that's one thing I wasn't sure about. Like only blackness came out of them. Like there's no demons coming out of these people, were there? And like the vampires that were there, they've been kind of laying in wait, let's say, for their time to attack.
They were calling it like sun deaths. Like they had like times zones like for different areas around the city that they were basically saying were like areas that where the whole sun would go out would get blocked, and basically like the whole area would be like sun death, and then basically all the vampires would just come in and consume everybody like in the vicinity.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like these times in this issue. These are the bad guys here. Pretty cool looking though. Like there was panels in the book. I'll just put myself on the screen here for a second just so I can show you. That were, again, you got this same panel in the issue, but it was just bloodier. Like you see how there's like a bigger pool of blood here. There's a couple of panels like that in the issue that in this version was basically the same panel, just with like a large pool of blood surrounding the characters. So it wasn't that different most of the issue. They said that there was extra pages or something. I don't know if that's the case or if they're just altered. But yeah, that's kind of the main kind of one I wanted to show. But then I'll show the one at the end of the issue too. But you know what? I gotta say, Pepe Larraz, fucking awesome artist, so good. Yeah. For an event, this is the artist that you want on the book. This is just a perfect artist, honestly, to be drawing an event of this stature, like with all the characters and everything else. I'm really happy because, you know, last time we saw Pepe Larraz, of course, was on Big Game, right? Like, so the fact that they got him back to come do like a Marvel event following the success, I feel like, of that miniseries with Mark Miller, you know, they must be paying him well, I would hope, because obviously this is going to get a lot of attention too. This is a Marvel event. And I'm just happy that they got him here because he can easily just go do creator own shit. I would feel like at this point in time, Pepe Larraz, he's great artist though. This looked awesome. So, but yeah, the big swerve though, and again, spoilers guys, that, you know, we were going to mention is that it turns out Blade is the reason that this is all going on. It seems like at this period of time, he's behind this whole attack with the vampires. I guess he's siding with them. It looks like, at least that's what they're alluding to at the end of this issue. And he goes as far as killing, it looks like, Doctor Strange at the end of this issue, or at least taking him out somehow.
Yeah, putting a knife through his chest, whether that means you're dead or you're just wounded. It's comics, so you never know.
Yeah, so here's a scene coming up here that I talked about. So that's what you got in the regular issue. In the Red Band edition, though, he literally cuts him right in half. It's pretty great, actually.
Maybe he is dead. Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, like he like slices him right in half. So that's the difference that you're going to get with the Red Band edition. You're going to get some scenes that are just way more brutal. I mean, look, it looks like he's killing him here in this scene too. So it's not like you're getting like any bit of story that's different in that sense. But like, again, it's just, I did appreciate that for the higher price tag, you did get a couple of pages that were different. You did get some more brutal fucking death.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about too, is this Red Band or whatever. Basically, it'd just be the same copy, you know, except they just put some more splashes of blood on the panels. You know, they just put an extra layer on the art when they're, you know, putting it through the computers or whatever.
There was a bit of that. Most of it is that, but there is a couple of, I think in the solicit, they said there's like 2 different pages or extra pages or something. Like, you did also get that though. So like, you're right. It is a little bit of that. It is a little bit like, we're going to polybag this and charge you more. But hey, I mean, for that last page of him slicing him in half over what I seen was on the original edition, I'm like, okay, I was kind of happy with it, to be honest. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. You know, at least they're trying something, right? Like, I was like, yeah, it's a 90s gimmick for sure, but I was happy about it. Listen, you know what? I thought it was an entertaining first issue. I'm in it for the duration of the miniseries. I mean, yeah, it's definitely some DC versus vampires type shit going on here, just in Marvel, but great art, entertaining story so far. So I mean, for an event, that's all I really look for, really. So what'd you give this?
I'll still give it only a 3.5 though, but I'm looking forward to more.
Oh wow. No, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I had a good time with this. I thought it was really good. And the art, you know, I may have given it a 3.75, but I'm gonna give it an extra bump for that Pepe Larraz art, because he, you know, great looking issue. So
yeah.
All right, next up we got Superman House of Brainiac special number 1 here. I think we just both read this one online, Chris.
Yeah, I thought I had it on my pull list, but they didn't give it to me. And after reading this, you know, I really didn't inquire about why it was missing. I thought this was kind of trash too.
Wow.
Really excited about this. If I think I'm thinking about the right comic here. Uh, so I think of this one here. I was excited about this whole Brainiac storyline, and I thought this might kind of give some insight to what's going on. But wasn't this just a story with Perry White running for mayor or something?
So there was three stories. One just kind of rehashing
Yeah, what's been going on.
the Sarnian stuff. And then the majority of the issue was the Perry White story, running for mayor. And then that last story there was Amanda Connor. There was a reveal that these people that she's been helping this whole time was the Brainiac group, like the group of Brainiacs, which I guess after the fallout of that last event, she's been working with them, like one of those last events. Not even Beast World. I think it was the one before that we didn't like that happened in the summer, whatever that last summer, whatever the fuck that event.
Yeah, the rains or whatever.
Yeah. So that whatever event that was, she's been working with them since.
Yeah, but she's been talking to some big group, like those holographic, kind of whatever overlords, and I guess it turns out to be the Brainiacs. But
right.
This wasn't what I was expecting when I was reading this issue. So, I'm glad I didn't get it. If they throw it in my box, what am I going to do? I'll say I'll take it, but
man, I
don't mind passing on this one.
Okay, that's fair. I'm saddened to hear that though. I fucking love the Perry White story in this issue. This was great. It was Mark Russell. I mean, he's worked with Steve Pugh, the artist, on this a lot, like a lot of things on DC. But they brought like what they do in their stories to this story, in the sense that there's some humor. There's definitely some social commentary on stuff, like, you know what I mean? And I thought it was really fucking good. I was like, I would read a comic like this, to be honest with you. Yeah, man, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was good. I liked the angle of I thought the whole thing was funny with Bibbo, or whatever his name is there. Him running the bar that's also his fucking headquarters for his campaign. And he gets on the phone, and the guy's like trying to call, and he's like, he's like, yeah, this is the campaign headquarters. And he's like, what? I thought this was a bar. He's like, it's 8 a.m. Why the fuck are you calling the bar at this time anyways? Like, he's like, at 12, it'll turn into the bar. Don't worry about it. And then he like talks him into giving him some money for the campaign. And I kind of liked the whole thing, because obviously they took the angle that Perry White like doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And then Lois Lane is not easy on him. And then there's this whole thing about, obviously, aliens living in town, and you're going to have the whole other politician running against him that isn't accepting of the aliens, right? And it's kind of like, obviously, I guess, a commentary on, immigrants and shit like that. So, like, I don't know. I liked it, man. I thought it was really well done. And I like this team, though, the guys that did this story. So I'm kind of used to what they do normally in their type of stories. So I get why you wouldn't like this, though, because you wanted more Brainiac fucking event stories, right? Like, I get that. This is like definitely something outside of that, right? You had the podcaster fucking drumming it. One of these podcasters commenting on all this shit and getting everybody riled up at the campaign. Yeah, no, I dug it. I don't know. I'm sorry to hear you didn't like it, but I thought it was good. But a little bit on the nose for sure, too. A little ham-fisted. It's a little like, you can definitely see what he was going for here. I don't necessarily love politics in my comics either, but I just thought it was an honest kind of look at somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing that's running for mayor. And, he's just trying to be a good guy. And, it is Perry White, but, and there were some funny moments. So, yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So, but yeah, this is the Amanda Waller story at the end. I guess the reveal with the fact that she's been working for the Brainiac group. So yeah, like I said, I if you guys, that doesn't sound appealing to you, I think like what you'd be with Chris in saying that if you're reading the event, this was not necessary to pick up or read. It really didn't add too much other than this reveal with the Amanda Waller thing, which I'm sure they're going to talk about in the next Superman or Action Comics issue. So it's like, if this was like $5 or $6, I didn't buy it. So I ended up reading it digitally. So I didn't buy the physical issue of it. So for me, I enjoyed it for what it was. I've actually been liking this event so far. but it's definitely outside of what I was expected, let's say, of this one-shot special of this event, right? So you're right. You're like, if you picked it up, you're like, what the fuck is there a Perry White story about him running for mayor in this? I could see why you'd be upset, right? I thought I was not expecting it. I just thought it was a good story, but yeah, that's okay if you didn't like it. What'd you give it?
I give it a 3.5.
I'll go 4 for this as well. I thought it was good, well-rounded. Did you have a bad week this week? Well, I mean, the Leafs lost. We know that. All right, Chris.
You've done this podcast before the Leafs game.
If you hate on this one, though, you can get the hell out of here.
You're not going to like what I got to say.
Oh, man. You were not in the mood to read these things this week. I'm sorry. All right, get Fury number 1, Chris. What'd you think of this?
Look, I like Punisher. I like Fury. But I still don't like all these retcons of Punisher about what's going on. You know, what he was like in the Army, all that sort of business. I want my Punisher back the way he was. And all this stuff here, you're either going to keep the Punisher or get rid of him. Don't try and freaking soak us for these stories here. With him in the Army, and all of a sudden now he's a badass where before, he was just, I don't know, a military hero. I think they have some stuff there with some letters from his wife, tell him to come home. And he's all of a sudden now he's like on these special op missions. And I think they allude to the skull. Why he wears the skull, and that skull was some human skull that he's got sitting up on top of his base. I did like the showdown with the CEOs and that dog. That was a good thing there, where they're the black ops or they're almost like the Rangers there, and the regular Joes are coming go, hey man, you're not allowed to have dogs. We got to get rid of them all. And he's like, yeah, that's too bad. And I guess they kind of get saved by the bell there when he gets pulled away to take on his secret mission.
Yeah.
And that was Fury with the other guys. That was some nice, I guess some nice violence there, if you want to call it that. Where
very
those two guys are in the. Two guys are with Fury, and one guy won't shut up, or he's complaining too much or something, and then that's just brutal what they do to him. So there is some over the edge brutality there you got to think about.
Yeah, because again, this is the horrors of war, right? Yeah, and so they basically bury this guy fucking alive. The other guy won't shut his mouth when this is going down. Fury tells him to shut the fuck up. He does it, and then these guys just machete the shit out of this guy. They fucking just take machetes to him. Half his face is fucking cut off. And Jason Burrows, yeah, brutal. Jason Burrows, the artist, is good at drawing super violent fucking shit like this because he's done a bunch of comics where he's kind of portrayed this kind of shit. He did a bunch of Avatar comics. If you're familiar with Avatar comics, it's like more of that brutal kind of really fucked up like type of stories. Like it's a publisher that was very extreme with some of the stuff that they had done in their comics, like more of an indie publisher. And that's kind of where I first came across his work. But he's worked with like a bunch of really good writers like Alan Moore and Warren Ellis and Garth Ennis now. And he's been doing more Marvel stuff lately. He did a Moon Knight run a couple years ago that was really good. So this is a little bit less detailed, I feel like, for his art. But yeah, he does not shy away from, like you said, the brutality of this kind of thing. And the fun thing about this, too, is that it's like from the Max line of comics where you don't really see anything anymore come out of Marvel, where it's like your rated R comic, essentially. You're gonna get swearing and fucking violence like this and this kind of stuff. And I love Garth Ennis. I love his war stuff. He really likes doing a lot of war stories. I would agree with you in terms of them not doing the Punisher that we're used to. But this is not the first time he's done. That's why there's reference to it in the Asian guy here in this book, basically saying like there's been other war stories that he's done with Fury and with Frank Castle in the Max line of comics over the last, 10, 15 years or whatever. So he's done about 3 or 4 other stories like this, like kind of like this vibe. So it's not like this is what Garth Ennis likes doing. And he also wrote one of the best Punisher runs at Marvel too, the Punisher Max Punisher run. So
yeah,
I would agree with you that like, yeah, they're not representing the Punisher in Marvel Comics as of lately, but this is not a reason to like, you know what I mean? This is not that. He's done these type of stories before. This is just what he likes doing with the character. So, I really liked it. I thought the ending of the issue was really good. They basically set up this story in this issue. It was a lot of setup. But I did like the dog part. I did like the fact that now he's on a mission to basically take out Fury because he knows too much and they're worried that he's going to leak information to the enemy. And I like the brutal fucking ending of this one. I like Jason Burrow's art. I thought this was a home run. I'm sorry to hear you didn't love it all that much, but I think this is what I've come to expect from Garth Ennis Punisher stories as of late. I think that we've had other ones like similar to this. The last one he did was called Punisher Soviet, where it was like him against Russians in a war. So yeah, he's done all kinds of things like this with the this period of Frank Castle. They did like one where he's like a Nam one. So he's done all kinds of things like this. So anyways, so what'd you give this?
I'll give it a 3.75 though. There are some good stuff. It's a good book, but it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, fair enough. I give this a 4.25. Great stuff. One of my the most anticipated book I had this week was this. So I really like the whole package. DC Spring Breakout #1, Chris.
Yeah, I just kind of read this one online, and it's just kind of like an anthology type stories there. You know, what do you think? The first one was that King Shark is locked in jail. Harley Quinn comes to take him out on his birthday, and they get up into some sort of all these shenanigans. That's fun read, and you know, at the end, I guess King Shark's all happy, or Harley's, you know, upset that everything went awry on his birthday, and he was just happy to have all these adventures. So it's all kind of fun and sweet stories. I forget what the other ones were. I don't think I read them all. It was I imagine it's a decent book. There's a lot of reading in there, lots of good art and artists. But what was this one here? Who's this? Oh, the Dr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze, yeah.
Oh yeah, this one. What happened in here? I think Bruce Wayne is being helped by I guess a young Bruce Wayne is being helped by this girl. He's at some ball, and an older lady helps him out, and that turns out to be Dr. Freeze's wife, before she died. So just I guess kind of tying up some kind of kismet things where one thing happens to another. And I don't think I read this one here, so oh yeah, no, I did read that one. That's like the Teen Titans. That one reminded me a lot of the Teen Titans Go cartoon, but they're all grown up there. I think they're on a beach, and Robin wants to partake in the beach games, and everything else sort of happens out there. But like I say, it's all kind of fun, one and done stories. That wasn't too bad. I don't regret not buying it. I think there was a nice cover, a nice Harley Quinn cover by, I think it was Dan Moore, that I was looking to get into, but didn't make the list. And I'm not too upset that I don't have it, but if I did have it, I wouldn't mind having it. Overall, I'd give this probably a 3.75 too. It was a fun read.
Nice. And then next up, Immortal Thor #10.
Yeah, somehow this is kind of, I don't know, I don't think I put this on my pull list, but maybe it takes a while before it comes out. Yeah, got that copy here. That's just more of that Roxxon. This kind of falls out after Thor finishes reading that Roxxon comic, and it turns out the Roxxon Thor, I don't know, he's Scourge or something. I don't know what it is. There's some pretty epic scenes there where the Roxxon Thor is fighting the real Thor. I think he throws out his hammer, Thor catches it, then he calls Mjolnir to come in, and it just crushes the Mjolnir upgrade or Mjolnir maximum. I forget what the other guy calls it, but just overall, the story itself is just too meta or something. And I think at the end that Minotaur guy, he gets killed. He gets kind of backstabbed by Enchantress there. That sort of came out of the blue to me. But maybe if I was more invested in the story, it'd be a more like holy moly sort of moment. But you're just kind of reading, what the heck is all this all about? So there's that scene there where the Thor, that looks good on a splash page or just in a preview, but then when you open up to the whole book, it's really not ideal. But the covers are still sick. I think there's another good cover coming up there with Hercules. So it's kind of, it can pull you in, but it's just not good.
Carlos Magno, the artist on there, I don't always love his work. Some panels look good, and then other ones look not so good. And I don't know. I didn't read this, but I just I'm always I never sold on that guy's art. He was actually previously drawing some of the issues of Captain America before
Yeah.
I jumped ship on that more recently. Yeah, but yeah, I saw that he was on here. I don't know if he had drawn this book before. Maybe they just kind of just threw him on here after doing some cap issues. But anyways, what'd you give this?
Yeah, that's another 3.5 for me again.
Okay. Next up, we got Zorro, Man of the Dead, #4. This is the conclusion of the Sean Murphy miniseries of Zorro that he wrote and drew. I know, Chris, you didn't get a chance to read this conclusion. I actually didn't get a chance to put the art up for this one. But I just want to say he completely stuck the landing, made me care about this story more than I had any right to, because I have no interest in Zorro. It looked fantastic the whole way through. I think that the story got stronger as it went. I thought it was a satisfying conclusion. It was really fucking good. It was really good. Like I'm very impressed by this book, and it all kind of came together. It was only 4 issues, so it didn't overstay its welcome. I think they just announced that there's going to be a trade paperback collection of this now because it's just concluded. I think it's in the newest solicits, and this is from a newer publisher, Massive. So if you do your pre-orders, guys, make sure to try to pick that trade up if you missed this, because honestly, even if you don't care about Zorro, I think this is just a really well-told story with really good art. And I'm definitely gonna double dip and pick up that collection. That's how much I really enjoyed this. So I gotta give this ending like for 4.25, maybe even like 4.5, honestly, because
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was a really good last issue. Like I really liked how it kind of, everything basically worked out. Like in the last issue, this whole time her brother, the girl that we've been following, her brother has thought he's Zorro. And in this issue, because he kind of had like a lot of trauma and took to like basically becoming this character, and it brought hope to a lot of people around him. And they're just about to celebrate Day of the Dead here in this issue, and the whole town's coming out for it, and it's a big deal. But meanwhile, they've been fighting the cartel. And basically in this issue, like after getting, almost killed the last issue, he's like, I'm not Zorro. Forget it. Like, I just got to save my sister now because she has been taken prisoner by the cartel. And it kind of all just comes together like at the end, like it's the town has to kind of come together to help against the cartel. And it's like it if you've seen even the Antonio Banderas Zorro fucking movie and you liked that, it's kind of similar in some, like it's a modern day Zorro story.
Yeah, I think the people have the power, and if we all come together and stop looking at a blind eye, you can take out anybody.
Yeah, it's been done before, but hey, listen, I thought it was really good and it definitely helps because of Sean Murphy's art. I'm not gonna lie. So like, yeah, it was a story worth checking out. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Next up, you got Deadpool Wolverine World War III #1. I think this is one of 3. They're oversized issues, 3-issue miniseries, obviously to promote the fact that there is supposed to be the Deadpool movie coming out. Joe Casey, who's written both these characters before, or mostly Deadpool, but I think he's done some Deadpool Wolverine stuff before too, if I'm not mistaken. Adam Kubert on art, who's really good. Really nice covers for this too. There was a couple really good covers. And interesting, kind of like the book opens up with the landscape style art where you actually got to hold the book like this, which is something I really haven't seen, I feel like, since 90s comics. So that was kind of neat. You really don't see that all too often. So as you can see, yeah, when you opened it up, it was like, it really threw me off because that's how they start the issue. I was like, whoa, but there's some really good art. Like, and you actually have to hold it like this, like you're looking at a nudie mag, right? So I liked it. It was okay. It had some good art. It had some funny moments, but yeah, overall, despite me enjoying it, the story isn't that strong. I'll say, is it a worthwhile story worth telling? That's left to be seen, I think, by the end of this issue. But again, it's these two just kind of teaming up for reasons, I'll say. And by the end of it, something happens to Deadpool where basically now he's turned on Wolverine as a result of it. He's not in his right state. and he's basically attacking Wolverine by the end of this. But there were some good action scenes and some good jokes. Joe Casey has a good voice for Deadpool. He's kind of like the Deadpool that most people are used to seeing now in the films is because of the Joe Casey run after Rob Liefeld created the character, who was not as jokey as he is now. Joe Casey had a run that was very popular, and then basically everyone kind of ran with that version of the character since. And that's kind of what has now become the Ryan Reynolds version of this character in the films, is the Joe Casey version. So he's a guy that's written the character for, he's got like a famous run. He's got a whole fucking hardcover that collects the whole run back in the day. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. If you didn't buy this, Chris, if you're looking forward to reading this one, I wouldn't say you have to run to check it out. I give this a 3.25. It was okay. I think it could have been better. Might get better in the next couple of issues. The art was really good, and like I said, there were some fun moments, but the story wasn't very strong. It just felt like this, again, is just an excuse to do a story with these two characters, and I don't know if this is worth checking out based off of that, right? As much of a fan of as I am of those characters. And then next up, we got Vengeance of the Moon Knight #5. We just found out that the character that was Moon Knight basically masquerading around as Moon Knight in the last issue, and he's like some deep cut like West Coast Avengers character, which I've never, I feel like, heard of. So that was revealed at the end of the last issue. And then the cool thing is, though, they fight him in this issue, and the Shroud, that's his name. And by the end of this issue, the Shroud is actually the person. He's one of the people that gets consumed by whatever the hell's going on with Blood Hunt. And since Jed MacKay is also writing this book, it basically is tying right into the event, and which makes sense because Moon Knight has already been dealing with vampires in his city and stuff like that. That's part of like the fact that this whole Midnight Mission is around because of all the weird stuff happening in their neighborhood. And two of the people that actually work for him are also vampires that work for him. So all the characters, these side characters that he has in this book that have been trying to deal with the fallout of Mark Spector's death, are now having to deal with whatever happened to Shroud at the end of this issue and whatever's happening in the city as with this whole Blood Hunt situation. Now he kind of is like, he doesn't want to give up the mantle of Moon Knight at the end of this, and then he gets consumed by the shit that's going on with the Blood Hunt stuff. So it doesn't look good for him. I guess we'll see how that plays out. I might just be reading this as a tie into Blood Hunt just because I normally have been reading this book, but it's not. It tracks for this series though. Like, this feels like everything that Jed MacKay has been doing in this series should naturally actually connect to to the Blood Hunt stuff, to be honest with you. Like, it doesn't feel like it's just coming out of nowhere. So I think it was good in that sense. I'll give this 3.75 out of 5. All right, Chris. Next up, we got Weapon X #3 as we go into X-Men Corner.
I was looking forward to this one here. Got my copy. I was supposed to kind of go back into the history of Jane. Was it Jane Howlett or whatever her name is? The last issue, I enjoyed that one. So, the first issue, I was kind of iffy about. This one here, I didn't like it very much either. I just to say it right there. And even just the writing, I thought was lazy. I think like in the first page, he just basically says, "Oh, I guess it's my turn to tell my history here." Like, really? That's where you're going to do this? I've seen some of the previews. I didn't see that part, but there, kind of just go in the past. And it just seems her past mimics every other Wolverine's past. They all have all their 2 cents to put in. And in whatever world they end up in here this time, this Onslaught looks to them for help for some reason. And now they're going to, they end up partnering with him in there to save this world from like an endless, I don't know what. But it's just a lot of things didn't track for me here or make sense. And, maybe the next issue will be better. But this Weapon X, I don't know why they even decided to put this out. It doesn't fit in. None of these characters are really any breakout characters. They seem to pick the worst Wolverines for this. But that's what I think. But what did you think about it?
Whoa, man, salty Chris this week. What's going on? No, you know what? I completely agree with you on this book. Yeah. No, I didn't love this issue either. I did like the fact that they had like Dracula in it. for some reason. And then Elsa Bloodstone's father, he was in this, like that. This book has a lot of potential, honestly. Like, it does. Like, I like the idea of the multiple universe Wolverines. I like the idea of going to different timelines. But then, like you said, every issue we got to kind of, now there's like this setup of storyline where you got to learn about one of their pasts, and that's fine and all. But the last one I thought was surprisingly good. We quite liked that story. This one, not so much. And I agree with you in the sense that, like, some things are like some half-baked fucking ideas in this. Like, why the fuck is Onslaught now? The whole point of this book, I thought, was that mission. And now he's like, yeah, I'll help you guys out if you help me out. Like, what the fuck is that? Right? Like, yeah. I don't know. I agree with you. This was not a great issue. And, I struggled with this one too, because I thought unexpectedly, I thought that the first issue was so. The second issue I thought was probably the strongest of all of them so far. I thought we both quite liked the story that was told in that one, I recall. But then this one was just a bit of a mess all over the place, honestly. And there's only one more issue to go, I think, of this miniseries.
Yeah, I don't mind. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, so whatever. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of potential to this story. I thought that it's a good idea for a story, but I think it's also struggling to, and that's the thing too. It really isn't have much to do with the Krakoa stuff. So I don't know why this isn't stronger in that sense. Because then if we wanted to blame that being the reason like this wasn't great, then we could have. Yeah. But it's not. That's not even the case here, right? So I don't know. So what'd you give this?
3.25.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Next up, we got Nightwing 2024 Annual #1. Chris, I know it's your favorite title. What'd you think?
My favorite title, which digs deep into my favorite timeline of Nightwing, or my favorite arc of Nightwing, where he's the pirate.
I mean, it doesn't even focus on him this issue. It's all about this
better
B girl, the Destiny or whatever her name is now.
Yeah, whatever, Destiny B. Siren. Okay, we'll get all that junk out of the way. The story itself is a good story. It's, it held my attention. It's a bit of, I guess, all of her history.
Yeah.
Where they kind of even put it to some of that, the Rick Grayson timeline, which I understand wasn't a very well appreciated timeline. And, I don't know if they're trying to retcon some stuff in there. But, like I say, I wasn't aware of any of that. So even if they are retconning it, I don't care. They can retcon it as much as they like. I usually don't like retcons like that. That now she was like a super spy or something when they were hooking up, and, she was there just to kind of keep track of them.
So that time that they're referring to with the Spiral stuff is that before that, Dick Grayson was there was a secret agent era for Dick Grayson. The series is just called Grayson. Tom King actually co-wrote it. It was one of the first things he did at DC. And he was part of a team called Spiral, which that's what they were referring to in this, like one of those like Checkmate, Spiral, like one of those secret organizations. So he did work for Spiral at a certain point, and I guess that's why they were trying to tie in that whole thing too. So this really kind of touched on like two different other runs, like eras of the character prior to this current timeline. So I think even in that respect, the guy did know, like, if it is retcon, like whatever, him changing stuff, he did line everything up pretty well for this character being amongst.
Yeah, I don't think he changed anything, but now just the reason that maybe B was with Rick Grayson, where he might have been a random love interest in that story, was not the case. He was being watched or stuff like that. It's like what they did with Wolverine when he had his time with his girlfriend out in the woods, and she turned out to be a mutant agent that was out there to calm down Wolverine or something, or keep track of him. I never liked those kind of stories where they change stuff up like that.
Yeah, fair.
But outside of that, the stuff with the story itself was a decent story. Whether it's a Nightwing story, I don't know. Whether it belongs in a Nightwing annual, I can't say that either. But I didn't really put this on my pull list. They kind of sent it out to me. That was good to me. So if they always kind of put something in my put it in my pull list, I'll give it a read. Which it wasn't so bad, considering the other things that I've read. It wasn't the absolutely worst thing I read. It's just not something I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I think it was a good Nightwing adjacent type of story, and I think it's where else are you going to put this? It makes sense to me that it's in the annual because there is no other like for us to get an oversized issue, like a story this long and kind of detailed in the sense that they kind of touched on a lot of Nightwing's more recent past in the comic book by and having this character that was involved in his life at certain points. I thought it was a well-told story. I agree with you. I think, it is what it is. It was nothing over the top or spectacular, but there's nothing wrong with it either. Travis Moore wrote and drew this. I thought it was a good story, a well-told story, I'll say. So, yeah. And again, I wouldn't say this was the first
And
character.
who's that supposed to be at the end? Is that supposed to be Amanda Waller? Or
No, I don't know who that
like,
is.
everything's all done, and then not done, not quite done yet, or whatever she say there.
I don't know who that is. I don't think it's Amanda Waller, but yeah, well, I guess, I don't think so. I guess we'll find out, right? But
yeah.
And then after this, we're moving into the last final Nightwing storyline with Tom Taylor, the Fallen Grayson, or the fuck it's called. Anyways, what'd you give this?
I'll give it a 3.75. Though it's good stuff. Good read.
Okay, no, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, I thought, yeah, it was good. It was good. Next up, we got Harley Quinn 2024 annual #1. I actually had just read this right before recording. I forgot about that. I didn't have time to read this one previously. I put it aside and forgot about it. And I know we've been bagging on Harley Quinn a lot lately, the series, because it hasn't been that great, the ongoing series. This is written and drawn by Erica Henderson. So similar to the Nightwing one, they had an artist come on and write and draw a story. And, I don't know if this would be your style of art, Chris. I quite like her stuff, but it's definitely very cartoony and funny kind of looking, as you refer to, the Archie style. Yeah. I don't know if this would be up your alley in terms of the artwork. It's definitely more what we've come to expect as of lately with Harley Quinn, which, I could take it or leave it myself as well. But I like her stuff. I've seen her do other things. She's actually done a couple of backup stories on this title, actually, over the last however long they've been doing those backup stories. You know what? This was actually a pretty fun issue. I like this. The premise of this one is she goes on a cruise. Ivy basically, tells her, or she decides that she needs some time to herself for a vacation. And Ivy's like, you're going to go on this cruise and you're going to get bored a day in. I know you. And she's like, nah, that's not the case. And so she goes on this cruise. And then, that's exactly what ends up happening. She's like relaxing and she's enjoying herself. And you're seeing all the shit that she's doing on the cruise. And then like a day in, she's bored as fuck. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And then she's looking at the itinerary of stuff to do on the cruise, the shows that they have. And then she's like, oh, I know this person. She's the one that arrested me that one time. And then she ends up going to the show, and it's a magic show with Santana. So Zatanna is before the show starts, she goes in the back to see her in her dressing room because she knows her. She sneaks back there, and she walks in, and you got Zatanna was all like pie-eyed and she's like acting odd and she's like being weird and then Harley's like looking at her and she's like, something's not right here. She's like, oh, pick a card, any card. And she's like not even acknowledging that she knows Harley. So then she goes out on the deck, on the actual cruise ship, and she sees Santana there, sun tanning, and she's like, what the fuck is going on back there? I knew it. That's not you back there. And she's like, no, that's basically me made a magical clone of myself, essentially, that's only capable of really doing the show for them. And she's like, well, why would you do that? Don't you feel like you're ripping people off? These people want to come see you, and meanwhile you're out here relaxing. And she's like, because superheroes don't get paid to go on vacation. She's like, I'm just taking some time for myself. And she's like, okay, well, now we got to go watch this show. Come on, let's go. So she drags her to her own show to watch this version of her clone of herself, whatever, magic fake version of herself performing the tricks. And all of a sudden she ends up doing this, throwing knives at somebody on one of those spinning wheels on stage from the crowd. And the lights go out and you hear a thunk and they're like, oh no, fuck, did she hit somebody? And then they turn the lights back up. So the lights get turned back on. And the person that she ends up hitting is fucking, of all people, they find out Vandal Savage. So not only is he there on the cruise, he apparently has nothing to do with this setup. He was not out there to kill them. He was just collateral damage. So whoever put this in motion, was trying to set not only Zatanna up to make her look like a murderer, but also take out Vandal Savage. Turns out it's Bronze Tiger that was on board, and they end up fighting him, and hijinks ensue, and that's the issue. But again, for an annual, one of these throwaway type of stories, I thought it was fun. Yeah, there's another guy behind everything too, this guy Mandrake dude, which I'm not familiar with, but it was a fun. It had some funny jokes. It had some fun moments. Again, for an annual, which I don't expect much from, I thought it was good, and it was actually one of the more entertaining issues of Harley that I've read in some time. So I'll give it a 3.75 out of 5.
Yeah, but if you want to talk about that Harley Quinn, I was reading something else, a Cam in America or something. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but it's sort of done in that manga type style. The same thing that this Harley Quinn whatever has been about. And I didn't mind reading that. I think it's just with Harley Quinn, you can't have your she's a hot DC property. You can't have this could be a story adjacent. It could be where they had the Harley Quinn, whatever, like the animated series type. You could have that in there, and then you have a real story going on. That's all. If this is the only Harley Quinn you're getting out of DC, that's brutal.
I agree. It's one of their biggest characters right now.
Yeah, they're giving her no respect.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And then next up, you got KI-18. Not much to say about this. I just wanted to check in and say that this is still pretty good. This is the end of the arc. Next issue, we're going to get a standalone issue that he kind of does in between arcs that tell stories of some of the characters, maybe past stories, or gives you a little bit more insight into some of these characters that we don't get these solo stories of. Basically like the annual of sorts, where they're and they're not collected in the collections, these issues that he does in between every arc. So they're kind of fun to every time he does them. I enjoy them. Last one gave you the origins of Kaya's metal, robot arm or whatever, right? So things like that, where they don't have time to tell you in the story, ongoing story that they kind of want to do. And this was basically just a wrap up of the current arc. I thought it was really fun, fast paced, good art as always. Always a good time reading this. I think this is a really good fantasy adventure comic coming out from Image. I really don't have too much to say, other new things to say about this title every time it comes out, but just the fact that I'm still enjoying it. And I actually like this issue a lot. I give this a 4 out of 5 this issue. I thought it was a good wrap up to the current arc, and I'm looking forward to see where the story goes next. So yeah, good stuff. Wes Craig writing and drawing this one. I hope it's getting its audience, but if we're 19 issues into an Image series, I'm sure that he has. So, all right, Chris, Invincible Iron Man number 18.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this one. Been enjoying Iron Man a lot. Got a sick cover there. Got Iron Man, Magneto on the same side. And then you open the cover, and it's freaking Rodney in jail. What the heck is that all about? I know they got to touch on that story, but you can't start out with that story, with that cover, with, what happened at the end of the last issue. They should have moved right back into everything. I'm not really digging this Rodney.
Rhodey.
Whatever, though. What's his name?
Rhodey, not Rodney.
Rhodey.
Rhodey. Yeah.
I don't know what his name is.
Rodney.
What's his name?
Well, that's what he calls him, is Rhodey. It's Rhodes is his last name. I don't
know.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Anyway, Rhodey. Probably stay there, but I didn't like that stuff. And then even when it got to the Magneto and Iron Man stuff, I can't believe he's using Fei Long as an ally here to fight all the Super Sentinels. It's nice to see the costume back in action, and I don't understand why it was trying to save that train. So maybe this one was just lost on me too. Maybe I just had a bad time reading this. I didn't know what was going on. But even with Magneto back, the way he kind of left things, never being want to be to come back, he goes, if I die, I die, that's it. And they bring him back anyways, or he comes back alive somehow. And he's like a totally different person. That's not tracking with me too well so far. But, I'm still into this series, so I did enjoy this comic to see kind of how things are playing out.
It was okay. I think the last couple of issues of this series, we were loving this book so much. I think it hasn't delivered on what the high expectations I feel like we've had of the storyline and overall in this series. And it was good though. It was not bad whatsoever. I just Yeah, I just think with all the Krakoa stuff wrapping up, I expected a bit more. The fact that Magneto came back, it just seemed like it all happened so quickly in this issue. But I gotta say, my favorite part of this issue was when Magneto goes there and Fei Long like tries to take credit for everything that went down, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, looks so defeated, like he's like his face is like, "What?" Like, and then Tony's like, "Oh yeah, that was the best moment."
That's the problem. That's the best moment. You wanted to see freaking Iron Man. He's been beaten down by this guy, caused him so many problems. He comes with this freaking Superman or super Sentinel Buster. You want to get him his moment where that freaking thing is just out there, just stomping away on things. And I don't know, I just feel like that moment never came.
Well, I did like how he took out Nimrod though. That was pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like he infected like his like basically his like all that shit started oozing out of him. I thought that was pretty cool. Like Magneto, how he put the vibranium.
Yeah, he sort of energized the Mysterium or whatever.
Mysterium, that's what it's called, into his actual like circuitry, and then it started oozing out. I thought that was pretty cool actually. I was like, that was a very cool Magneto way of fucking taking him out here. Like, and like he just started malfunctioning and obviously, they said this is just one of the Nimrods, right? Like it's not the Nimrod, but it was pretty, this guy's been causing a lot of problems for them. So like to see him actually take him out in that way, I thought that was a highlight of the issue too. That it was that.
And I guess Mysterium's now off the table.
Well, he's still got all the Iron Mans that are made out of him.
I thought he had to use that Mysterium from the Iron Man suit to kill Nimrod.
True, you're right. Yeah.
And that was the whole cache of Mysterium that they used to build that Iron Man suit too. So
that's right.
I guess that was just kind of a plot device there, let's say.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I agree. Yeah. I agree that the start with, which is weird because they haven't revisited that story in some time. I don't know.
Now you decide to do this? Come on.
Wait another fucking issue. Yeah, it's like it's just, when they were checking in on James Rhodey Rhodes.
James Rhodey, that's it.
Not Rodney. But yes, yeah, I liked it. What'd you give this out of 5?
I'll give it a 4. It was good stuff though. That I did like that stuff with Magneto kind of energizing the Mysterium there.
Yeah, I agree. As much as me like saying, "Oh yeah, this wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be," I'll also give it a 4. I like this series overall. I have really high expectations for this one, just because it's all been leading to this moment, right? So, but yeah, now we talked about it a bit. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
so I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
I liked it more the more we talked about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you gotta like something this week, Chris. I mean, you gotta give a favorite of the week to something this week. I know you're in apparently a crusty mood reading your books this week. It happens. I get it. X-Men 34, Chris.
Garbage. No,
no, you love this one. I know. You love this. Go ahead.
But I did read it last Wednesday. The things I took away from this one is basically that stuff with Shadowcat and Wolverine. I thought that was great.
Yes.
And I might have to see some of the other storylines. I guess this is the way it should start. I got what a Professor X, living his dream and the dream becoming a nightmare. I think they're laying that on a little bit thick, but that's the whole sort of gist of this storyline, and it is coming to an end. So I guess I got to lay it on a bit heavy. This MODOK, he's always fun to watch. I thought he sort of checked out a while ago, but I guess he's back for more business and taking care of things. The art it was great. There's a lot of action in this one.
Yeah.
And, there's really not much bad to say about this.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed this issue as well. And like you said, the moment for me was Shadowcat basically saying now that she's like done, like after this, like she's no longer wants to be an X-Men. Yeah. She killed so many people, and it's one of those kind of like things where she's like, I killed a bunch of people. We did a bunch of shit. Where has it gotten us? I'm over this. Yeah. And then, of course, on cue, out of the shadow was like Wolverine slinks out. He's like,
out of nowhere.
Give me that sword, darling. He's like, grabs it. I loved it, man. It was a great, very Wolverine type moment because he is the guy that's going to come out of nowhere and fucking grab
it. Yeah, when Shadowcat's having her crisis or Kitty Pryde, whatever you want to call her. I know she's been Kate Pryde, but this brings you right back to the time that she's Kitty Pryde and he's Wolverine, and and they have a pretty, a long history together.
Exactly.
Kind of mentor and student. So that was it was a good callback to that.
Exactly. And if you know that, I think this moment was especially really well done and deserved and expected. And if you need somebody to kill somebody, even if it's for the wrong reasons, this is the guy you call on in the accident, right? So like, he carries that fucking burden for them. So clearly, Kitty Pryde, when she became Shadowcat, this is something that she decided to take on in the moment, because it was like a call to arms for all these guys and they needed to get some shit done. But it's not something that Kitty Pryde is comfortable with, right? So the fact that you got Wolverine for that to come through in the rain there and grab that sword and be like, all right, looks like I'm going to go fucking kill Charles now. I just thought that was like that moment alone, that this was a great fucking issue. Yeah, it was really fucking good. And just seeing him there with the sword and the fucking claws come out, I was like, fuck yeah, at the end of this. So yeah, great moment, honestly, in this week of comics. So I'm looking, and the next issue is the last issue of this series, right? Of this era. So the oversized issue, right? So I'm really looking forward to that. What'd you give this?
I'll give it a 4.25. Once again, the more we talked about this one, the better it became.
Same. Yep. 4.25 for me this week. All right. So that's going to do it for what we want to talk about this week that we read. What are you looking forward to reading next week, Chris?
Absolutely nothing. No. No, we got Amazing Spider-Man 49. I think these are all Blood Hunt tie-ins too, somehow. I got Venom 33, Wolverine 49. Where was Wolverine in his magic costume there? I guess what happened. I don't know.
All right.
X-Men Forever 3, looking forward to that. Batman 147, that's been doing well. I got Sacrificers 8, see what's happening in that world. And Baby Scorch 29, if they throw it in my pull box or not.
Yeah, some similar ones here. Batman 147, Birds of Prey 9, Amazing Spider-Man 49, Deviant 5, Doctor Strange 15, which is a Blood Hunt tie-in, Sacrificers number 8, TMNT Black, White, and Green. They're doing one of those for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they're doing the 3-color kind of scheme there, with short stories by different artists. X-Men Forever number 3, which I'm not very much looking forward to. I don't know. That one's again, that's that whole other side of this of things. Sorry, I was actually talking about this with a big X-Men fan that I know the other day. I haven't talked to the books currently going on with him in a while at the LCS. And he is in agreement with us. I think what our thoughts on all this is that the Jerry Duggan side of the X-Men stuff compared to the Kieran Gillen side of the X-Men stuff has been far superior. And overall, most X-Men fans do not agree in that sense. He also found some of the other shit going on in the other one confusing. He's a big X-Men fan. So I don't know. He's liked the Duggan run. I just think we're in the minority when it comes to that in regards to the Duggan run, from what I've been hearing anyway.
Yeah. But if you didn't know what happened to them in that white hot room, I wouldn't sweat it.
I just think
left unknown.
Duggan, amongst everything else that he's been doing, it's been going on with the Krakoa stuff, he always finds moments in these issues, like we talked about today, at the end of that issue, to kind of insert that you can really latch onto as a fan of these characters. You don't need to fucking care about everything that's happening with the Krakoa stuff. This is just a moment between these two characters. I don't know. I just think he finds interesting things like that, moments that to do stuff like that with the characters. And yeah, and I'm sure there's gonna be some things I read online as well here this week.
I guess we have all the new comic book day stuff. I'll be able to reading some of that.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that as well. Yeah, so look forward to that. All right, what's your favorite book of the week here, Chris? I think I can guess.
Yeah, I'll go with X-Men.
You know what? The more we fucking talked about it, I'm gonna go with it too. I'll tell you, I really wanted to give it to Get Fury because of how much I was looking forward to that book, but except for that crazy end, that violent fucking end of that issue, it just was a lot of setup. So, I think there's going to be future issues of that are easily going to make my favorite of the week. But But yeah, the more we talked about that great moment at the end and just like kind of this era of the X-Men overall and Jerry Duggan's run, I got to give it to the X-Men 34 for sure this week. There wasn't too much that, and you know, shout out to Zorro as well. Really
Yeah.
fucking good too. Those were the ones I think that were in the running this week, let's say. But yeah, the more we talked about it here, X-Men is, I'll agree with you there, Chris. Finally, something to enjoy this week. All right, guys. We'll see you next week for another episode. Hopefully, Chris is in a better mood. No, it's always nice to talk about them, despite we like them or not, right? And it was always fun to get together.
I'm still buying them. I'm still reading them, so I don't hate them that much.
That's right. And it's always good to kind of sit back with a beer and discuss them here, guys. I kid. You know, Chris, I like to make like to tease him when he's like he hates on all the books like he did this week. Hey, listen, that's me sometimes too. It happens. All right, guys. We'll see you here next week. As always, though, another episode of Comic Shop Talk. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I guess check out the Late Night Chat Network as well. You know, maybe.
Here, get some more Leaf talk there.
That's right. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.
All right. Cheers.